AI, automation, AI agents, these things are everywhere right now, but how do you get started? As a beginner, it can feel completely overwhelming. You know how efficient and optimized automations can make your life or your business, but it's really hard to know where to get started. So in today's video, I'm going to walk you through my favorite automation platform, Make.com, from a complete beginner's perspective. I'm going to show you the main areas of the user interface or UI that you should focus on. I'm going to show you how to create connections with other services like ChatGPT. We're even going to build out two really basic scenarios to get you started. The first one is going to read and respond to emails using ChatGPT and AI. And the second one is going to be a simple automation for automating your posts to LinkedIn. AI automations with platforms like Make.com is the easiest way to make your life more efficient. So let's hop into Make.com and let's get started. If you're brand new to Make, just come over to Make.com and create an account. Just come up to the top and click Get Started for free. I'll leave a link in the description to get you here. Fill out some of your personal information and click Sign Up for free. Once you're logged in, your page should look something like this. This is mine, so obviously there's already some information here because I use the platform every single day. A couple of things to pay attention to here are the operations and the data transfer. For the free plan, you get 1,000 operations per month, and we'll go over what an operation is once we get into building scenarios. And data transfer is how much data you've transferred through the platform, whether you're using audio files, documents, videos, whatever. You're just going to want to keep an eye on how many operations you use and how much data you transferred based off your subscription level. If you want to upgrade your account or buy extra operations, you can come in here and do so. There are all these other tabs at the top for teams and users, subscriptions, payments, etc. I personally almost never look at any of these. The main place that I do go is to this scenarios tab right here. And this is basically the hub for everything. Every time you build a scenario, this is where it's going to live. You see, I have a whole bunch of them. What's really cool is that you can organize these into folders so it's easier to access them later. So in order to create a new folder, just come up to the plus here next to folders and go ahead and name this new folder whatever you want. I'll just call this YouTube for today, if I could spell. So we can hop into this folder right here, and there's nothing in it yet because we haven't created a new scenario. So for me, always, I think the best way of learning is just by doing. So let's go ahead and we'll start building out scenarios, and I'll give you some more tips all along the way. So in order to get started, to create your first scenario, just come up to the plus here, this big purple button, and click Create a New Scenario. And now that we're here, I'm just going to give you a walkthrough of some of the basic tools and things that we come back to every single day. Some of these are beginner level, some of these are more advanced. I just want you to be aware of what is out there and what's possible. We can start simple, but I think you're going to grow in this platform really quickly, and it's really good to know what's out there. One other thing that's worth noting is this integrations page. You can just Google search Make.com integrations or come over to Make.com/integrations, and this will basically show you all of the different services and platforms that Make integrates with, and it is a lot. So if you're looking for something specific, come here and check this first. There's 2,300 different apps that Make integrates with. So again, if there's something you're really trying to do, just come in here and see if they have an option for you. A lot of platforms have built these custom Make.com modules. Most things, if you're going to use an API, you can do with HTTP requests, but that's definitely a much more advanced kind of topic that we can cover in a different day. So the most basic thing you need to know is that this is called a trigger. This is the thing that is going to start your automation. And the simplest trigger in my mind is just this tools module. So I'm just going to go ahead and click plus, and we can create a basic trigger or we can set a variable. And this does a whole bunch of kind of like basic things, kind of functions that Make.com can perform for you. So since we're here, why don't we just create a basic trigger? And this basically allows you to input any information that you personally want. So this isn't coming from anywhere. This isn't pulling from your email or LinkedIn or another service. We are setting this information here. We're just going to create this bundle. We're going to click add item, and I'll show you why this is important. So we're going to just click add item one more time. And this is kind of the basis for how Make.com works, right? It's what we call these key value pairs. It's a term that's used in JSON or JavaScript object notation. You don't really need to remember that, but basically this is the way that Make kind of stores and passes information. So you always need to have a key or a name and a value. Think of it like exactly like this. You can say name and the field name is name, and the value for my case will be Duncan, right? So my name is Duncan, key value. And so basically, if we want to run this, the way you start your scenario is just coming down to the bottom left here, and we can just click run once. And you're going to be doing this all along the way when you're testing your automations. So we can just run this once, and you can see what happened here. We've outputted this key value pair, the name, and Duncan. And so this is really important because what this allows us to do is dynamically grab this information in the rest of our scenario as we progress. So if we wanted to, we can come down here and we can add location and we can say California, because that's where I am. Go ahead and click save. And we can either run this once from the beginning, or as you test your flows, you might only want to run one module. I know we only have one right now, but you could just right click this and say run this module only. So now you can see we actually have two key value pairs. We have a name and a location. And you can see up here, this is the number 1. So remember in the beginning when I talked about number of operations you're using, this 1 represents one single operation. So now you know how to keep track of how many operations you're using if you're still on the free plan. So let's go ahead and let's just dynamically link this up so you can kind of understand what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to go ahead and click the plus. I'm going to grab tools and I'm going to go ahead and use this set variable module. This again is if you want to set a specific amount of data, if you want to hard code this in, something that's not going to change, go ahead and click set variable. And we can call this variable name. Why don't we call this first name in this case? And you can see here, we actually have access to the data coming out of the node before us. And as the scenario gets bigger and bigger, you'll have access to all of the information in all of the nodes that come before whatever node you're working on. So we can just go ahead and we can take this name here. We can just go ahead and drag this into place. Or if you want, you can actually just click on it. And if we go ahead and click save now and we click run once, you can see we've now used 2 operations, right? One for each one of these nodes. Come in here, you can see again, we have the name and the location. But if we come into the output of the second module, what we have here is first name Duncan. So it's only grabbing the first name from the module before. And so I kind of using the terms module and node interchangeably. They basically mean the same thing. It's one of these guys. But it's cool because you can also see that if you're here and we hover over this, you can actually see what this is connected to. Pretty cool. One other thing that's worth noting is if you're testing scenarios, you can actually change where the automation starts. So if we were to unlink these by clicking unlink, we can actually just drag the stopwatch, which basically denotes the start of the automation. And we can just drag this over here. And we're going to get this error message because see, we linked this up to a module that came before it. So we don't actually have access to that information anymore. So we would actually need to put in our own information here if we actually wanted this to work. And so now you can see that error message went away. And if I were to click run once, this now basic trigger doesn't run anymore because we've said that this module should actually be where the scenario starts. So these are just a couple of cool basic things to get you started. There's a couple more pieces of the UI that you should know. Up top here is basically where you name the entire scenario. We're going to go ahead and we're going to build that email scenario. So I can just call this email responder because that's what it's going to end up being. And then at the bottom here is how we save everything, this little disk. For those of you who remember floppy disks, that's what this is. Just go ahead and click save. One other thing that's worth noting is if you're messy and you have stuff all over the place like this, you can always click this little magic wand to auto align and it's going to align everything up for you. This works really well if you have things already connected to each other and say there's something like this, you can auto align it again and now it's going to just kind of align it up so everything's pretty. The other way to run your scenarios is by scheduling them. And that's what this toggle is down here. So we can just come in and we can change this how often we want to run this, right? So at regular intervals, once every day, days of the week, days of the month, specified dates, or on demand. And so you could see days of the week here, just gives us the days of the week. We can check all the boxes that apply, and this is the time that it'll run. And this is actually in Eastern time for me, but you can go ahead and kind of change this around whenever you want to run. Same with days of the month, right? First through whatever days of the month. Same thing every day at regular intervals. You can do this. We can set this to run every 15 minutes. Once we're happy with our scenario and we're ready to get this thing going, you can just flip this toggle on and go ahead and click save. And this will now run every 15 minutes. But remember, every time this runs, it's going to use operations. So I'm going to turn this off because we're just testing. And something else worth noting is the logs. Make.com does log every run that your scenario has. If you just click this little back arrow here, you can see that this is the history of all the scenarios that were run, right? So this was a successful run here. This is our diagram. If you come into history here, we can see the total history of everything that was run. And so if we're trying to troubleshoot or we're having issues and we don't know why, or if something was working and now isn't working and we want to go back and see what was working in the previous version, we can come back in here and you can kind of go into details. You can see the run. It's basically going to give you all of the outputs. You can click into this little operations here and kind of see everything that happened. And likewise, this is stored on the side here for you to click into too. One other thing you can do between modules is you can add filters. So only data that you want to get passed through actually gets passed through. And you do that by just clicking here on the little wrench or in between on this dot here. So like say we wanted to only get people whose names were Sarah, right? We can just type in Sarah here. This is just a label for us and the condition. We can go ahead and click name, and then we say equal to, right? And we have all these different kind of operators here. There are text operators, which of course works with text. If you're dealing with numbers, make sure you're using these numeric operators. And these are really the only ones that I've used so far. They have date, time operators, Boolean, yes or no, right? And all these other kind of array operators. I've never even touched these personally. We're definitely not going to touch them today. So we can do text operators, equal to or not equal to. I'll do case insensitive. And we just want to type Sarah. And this basically means whether it's uppercase letters or lowercase letters, it's looking for the name Sarah. And if it sees it, it's going to pass it through to the rest of the flow. And if it doesn't see it, it's going to stop it. You can also add multiple rules. You can add an and rule or rule. So it basically says, if the name is Sarah and something else, or if we're looking for two names, if we're passing through, Sarah and Ashley or whatever, we can add an or rule, right? Just do that by clicking the button and go ahead and add the new rule in here. Just to show you how this works, we can click save. And if I run this once, you'll see here that this first module will run, but it didn't meet the parameters that we set in the filter because my name is Duncan. It is not Sarah. And so you can see here, it didn't qualify, and it didn't get passed through to the rest of the flow. But if we were to change this and we were to change this to my name, go ahead and run this again. And now you can see that we passed this through because yes, it does meet the criteria that we set for it. Let's go ahead and build out our email responder so we can cover a couple more of our basic concepts today. So if we just hold shift, you can actually select multiple modules at once. Go ahead and do that and just click delete. And now we're starting from scratch essentially. There are two modules in here that work with email. We have the actual Gmail module, which works great. Some people prefer the email module and think that this actually seems to work better. So I'm going to use the Gmail module because that's what we're working with today. And I'm going to choose to do this watch emails. We can go ahead and click show more just so you can kind of see all the things we can do with Gmail. Watch emails. So basically this will watch when any new email is received. And then it's going to kind of like ping this module here and it's going to pass it to the rest of the flow. We can copy an email. We can create a draft. We can delete an email, mark it as read or unread. We can even create labels for it. And we can even just send out an email without having to go to drafts first. So I'm just going to watch emails because I want this to run anytime a new email comes in. Okay, so now it's time for us to connect to our first third-party application. In our case, it's going to be Google. I'm not going to go through the whole process of connecting to Google. I have another video that walks you through step-by-step how to do that, and I'll leave a link in the description for it so you can watch that. But once you're here, basically, you just want to add a new connection. You'll click add. You'll make sure you name the connection, add your client ID and client secret, and then actually sign into your Google account. Again, watch the video in the description because you actually have to go through the Google Cloud Console in order to set this up properly to connect with your email. But once you have your connection set up, you can just go ahead and choose the folder that you want to watch. So we'll go ahead and choose the folder, and I'm just going to come down here and choose my inbox. So anything coming into my inbox will get picked up here. And the criteria will be only unread emails, nothing read. Mark email messages read when fetched. I'll click no so that they're still active in my Gmail account. Maximum number of results. You can set this to however many you want. One should be fine for us today. And if you want to search for anything specific, you can put a sender email address or process only emails that contain a specific character in the subject line. Or if there's a search phrase, right? If they contain if you want to make this about, sponsorship opportunities or something like that, search the phrase sponsorship here. We don't need any of this today. I'll just go ahead and I'll click save and set this up. And right here, some of these modules will have this. It lets the system know when it wants to process the information that the platform has. So from now on, so anything that comes in after this point, emails from after a specific date, we can give it a date and it'll look for anything after that. All emails, it'll process everything that's available, or it'll just select the first email on the list. And in our case, since we said unread, so it's actually going to select the first unread email. So why don't we just do that for now? And I'll just grab the school motion email. That's fine. Go ahead and click save. Now what we can do is we right click. We can just run this module once and it's going to go ahead and it's going to grab that information. And now you can see this is the output. It gives today's date, an ID for the email. If we have any labels on it, labeled as important. If it has any attachments. And the things we probably care most about are the sender down here, the email address and the sender name. The recipient should just be me. And the subject line of the email. And then if we come into the text content, this is actually the content or the body of the email. So again, this is really cool because now we can take this and we can start to process this into something else. So for the next part of the scenario, I want to show you how we can start using AI and ChatGPT to process information, which is really the most powerful thing you can do with these automations. So I've just gone ahead and I've written a little email to myself, titled it Automation Opportunity. It just says, "Hi, Duncan, love what you're doing with AI and automations. We'd like to work with you on building some cold email systems for our company. Do you have time to chat?" So I'll just send this to myself. So now we have access to it. And we can come back into Make here and we can right click. And if we go to choose where to start, again, we can select the first email. This will give us a list of emails to choose from. And I'm just going to go ahead and select this first one. Obviously, this came from me, but that's okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that and click Save. So now, again, if we run this module only, it's going to process that email. You can see we have the text content of that email. We have the sender. We have the subject line, automation opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. So now we can take this data and we can start to use this in the rest of our flow. So remember how I was talking to you about those set variable modules? Well, if we're doing something with email, it's likely that there's some pieces of information that we're going to come to over and over again, right? Like those things I called out, the header, the subject line, the sender email address, and the text content, right? And we maybe don't need to look at all the rest of this. So what we can do here is we can click the plus and we can come back into tools. And if you don't see it, just type in tools. And what we want to do is we're going to go to show more, and I'm just going to set multiple variables. So I'm just going to add these items in. If we go variable name, we can say sender name. And what we do here is we can come in here and we can find the sender name, and we can just add an item. We can say sender email. So we can grab the email and do the same thing here, right? So we have the email address from the sender, and we can say subject, and we can come in and grab the subject. One more, we can say body and grab that text content that we saw earlier, which is right here. And for good measure, if we want to make sure that we're responding in a timely manner, we can just say date received. And just come in down here and we can say date and go ahead and click save. So now if we right click this and say choose where to start, and we'll select that first email again and go ahead and click save. And now if I go run once, now you can see what's going to happen here is it's going to scrape that email and it's going to pass it along to this next module here. And now you can see we just have the name, the email, the subject, and the body, and the date received. So now this is just kind of like really easy and nice and organized. And if you want, you can come back in here and you can move these around. If you're unhappy with the order, like maybe we want the date, like up higher, and we can just put the date up first, right? Go ahead and click save. And so now why I like using the set multiple variables module is because we can actually use this, remember, as the start of our scenario. So we don't have to ping our Gmail over and over again while we're just testing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to just clone this out. You can right click this and you can just click clone, and we're going to get a second copy of the same module. So if I come in here, I just want to copy everything from this, and I'm going to connect it up here, and I'm actually just going to hard code this into our new set multiples variable module. And I'm going to show you why in a second. So we can just come in here and delete this, the sender email. I'll just put my own email. The subject, I can just type this out because it was so short. I'm not going to type out the whole body again, but I can copy this and paste in the body. And the date, I'll just copy the date from here too. And paste this in. So this is really helpful for when we're testing scenarios, because what we can do is, remember, we can just unlink all of this and keep this part of the flow the same. Now we can just drag the stopwatch here. So now this is the start of our module, and we don't need to check Gmail every single time we want to run this. I can just click run once, and you can see only this module ran, and we have the same information because we hard coded it in. And then at the end, we'll link everything back up so it's actually checking our email. And it's always helpful to name everything. And so we can just go ahead and rename this, and we can just call it like email info. Again, remember, always click save. So what's really cool here is now we can process this with ChatGPT. So go ahead and click plus, and I have OpenAI right here, but if you don't see it, you can just type in OpenAI, and we're going to go show more. And what I want to do is I just want to create a completion, right? This is basically the same as if you came over to chatgpt.com and started typing a message to it. And I already have a connection set up, but if you don't already have a ChatGPT account, just come over to platform.openai.com, and this is how you get access to the API. If you come into the dashboard here and you come into API keys, you can create a new secret key and then just paste that API key over into Make, and this will get you connected to ChatGPT so you can start chatting. The only other things that you do need to make sure that you have some money in your account. I have $20. You could load this up with the minimum of $5. It's literally so cheap to run. It costs pennies every time. And so just make sure you have some money in your account and you grab that API key. You're going to come back in here. You're going to click add. You're going to name this connection, just paste in your API key and click save. And that's really all you need. So now, what do we want to do with this email, right? Basically, we want ChatGPT to understand the email and create a response. And again, this part is like really up to you, however you want to respond. So we can just go ahead and select a model, and I'm just going to do ChatGPT 4.0. I think it's probably the best model for this. And there's a certain structure that we can use to get a good response out of ChatGPT. And basically, we're going to use a system prompt and a user prompt. And so the system prompt basically teaches the system how you want it to behave. It gives it good context for what you want it to do. We're just going to go ahead and do developer and system role. And we can just say, you are a helpful and intelligent email assistant. That's really all you need here. And now we can add another message. Come down here, and this is the user message. And this is the same as if we went to chatgpt.com and just started typing to it, right? So basically what we want to say is, what do we want it to do? We want it to read the email, we want it to analyze the email, and we want it to give an appropriate response. And now in this case, the best way to get a response really is by linking this up to our calendar, because it asks, do you have time? Is there a good time for you to meet? I'm not going to link it up to our calendar today, but that's another way that you could expand on this operation and make it a little more advanced. So I'm just going to give it a task. I'm going to say you will receive a business inquiry. Identify if the opportunity seems worth pursuing. Your task is to draft a response email and subject. If you need more details from the sender, include no more than 2 questions in the email body. And we could say if it does not seem like a good opportunity, please write an email that politely declines. So I think my face was covering this, so I'm just going to read it again real quick. You will receive a business inquiry. Identify if the opportunity seems worth pursuing. Your task is to draft a response email and subject. If you need more details from the sender, include no more than 2 questions in the email body. If it does not seem like a good opportunity, please write an email that politely declines. And this next part is important. Remember earlier we talked about that JSON format with the key value pairs? I'm just going to go ahead and tell ChatGPT to respond in that same manner, because we want to be able to grab the subject and the body of the email separately. So we'll just say you must respond in this JSON format, and basically the way that you write JSON is like this. Curly bracket, and we'll say subject, quotes, the subject of the email, end quotes, comma, space, body, the main body text, and curly brackets. And the last thing we need to do here is we need to actually give it the information that we want it to analyze, right? Maybe I'll add one more thing, like call the sender by their first name, respond in a casual, Spartan tone. The last thing we need to do again is we need to just add one more message, and we'll say user role. And now we're just going to give it the information that it needs to analyze. So the text content is, we'll say sender name. And what we can do here, remember, is we can just click this and add the name. We'll say incoming subject, incoming body. Just go ahead and grab the body here. And in order to get this to respond in JSON format, you just need to come down here to show advanced settings. See if I can scoot my face out of the way for this. So I'm just going to come down here to show advanced settings. And we just want to change this response format from text to JSON object. And we want to make sure we parse the response. Basically, it's just going to give this output in a nice format that we can work with. And you don't really need to worry about the rest of these. So just go ahead and click save. And I'm going to save this scenario. So let's just go ahead and run this through once. So you can see this module ran, it grabbed all the details from the email, and really quickly, it says here, we come down here to the output of the ChatGPT module and go to result. We can say subject automation opportunity. Hi, Duncan. That's right, I sent it from here. Thanks for reaching out and for the kind words. I'd love to learn more about your company and what you're hoping to achieve with these cold email systems. Could you share a bit more about your current setup and the goals you're aiming for? Looking forward to learning more. Best, your name. So again, we can instruct this to always respond with my name. I probably should have picked a different name for the sender, or I guess for myself in this case, to make it a little less confusing. But I think you get the idea here, right? I'm just going to add this part in. The name of the receiver is Duncan. Or we can change this. Why don't we say something like, use the name Duncan in the sign-off. Click save. And let's just run this one through once more time. And you can just see that AI is going to get to work, and we should get a completely different response this time. Come down here and go to results. So we can say, hi, DR, because that's actually how the person signed their name before, remember? Like say, thanks for reaching out, the kind words, et cetera, et cetera. Could you share a bit more about your company's industry and specific goals for these cold email systems? Looking forward to hearing from me, right? So this is really powerful. And what we can do here is we can just connect this back up to the Gmail app. We can go ahead and we can just create a draft. So this way it goes to our drafts folder. We're not actually sending this out without looking at it. And we can just go ahead and we can choose the folder here that we want this to save a draft in. And I'll just save this in the drafts folder. And now here we can say to recipient, and we can add the recipient, remember, from the module before. And so if we come down here, you can see that this starts pulsing, letting us know that that's what we're connected to. And so the sender email is, I want to send this to their email. So this is now dynamically linked, right? The subject here, I want to grab the subject from our ChatGPT module, and the content I'm going to use as the body. And again, if you want to do fancy formatting stuff, you can change this to HTML. We're not going to bother with that today. Just going to go ahead and click save. And we're really all ready to go. You have kind of built now like a really basic kind of email responder that operates automatically. And so if I just go ahead and run this whole thing through once, go ahead and grab all the information, ChatGPT will write a response, and this will create a draft in our Gmail account. So if I come into my email and I go into the drafts folder, we now have this draft stored in our outbox. So we can go ahead and just click into this, and we can just go ahead, read automation opportunity, and then it has our message. And again, if we wanted to have ChatGPT format this a little bit differently using HTML, telling it to use line breaks and things like that, we can go ahead and do this. But we can edit this however we want, and then we can go ahead and click send. And now you've just built your first automation. And what you would do at the end here is, remember, you would just unlink this because we don't need this anymore. We actually want Gmail to be the trigger. And we can come in here and we can dynamically link everything up here. Because remember, we set all these dynamically. So all we need to do is we would need to come back into the ChatGPT module here. And instead of using, because all our links are broken, right? Because we disconnected this module. And so we'll let this load for a second. And I'll show you, we just come in here and come down to the bottom here where we included everything. And we would actually just grab it here from the set multiples variable, sender name, relink this up, subject, body, and we are good to go here. Click save, and Gmail, we just need the sender email coming from here, and here's the email, and we go ahead and click save. We have no more errors, and we're good to go. And I'm going to include these blueprints for you in the description where you can just go and download the scenario completely for free so you have access to it, and you can start learning and playing around. And the way that that works is if you just are in a brand new scenario, you would come down here to these dots and go ahead to import blueprint and just choose the file that you downloaded. And go ahead and click save, and you can see the entire scenario just pops right in. You will have to reconnect this to your own personal accounts, but everything else should be there. Before we go ahead and create our second scenario for the LinkedIn poster, I want to show you one more feature of the UI, and it's this connections page over here on the left. This page is really important because all of these third-party platforms that you connect to, for the most part, especially Google and Gmail and things like that, your authorization sort of has like an expiration date. It has a time limit. I think it's usually like 30 days or something like that. But if you find that your scenarios aren't working, you're likely going to need to come in here. And these are all the things I'm connected to, but you're likely going to need to come in here and reauthorize that connection by signing in again to Google. So if I were to click reauthorize here, right, I would go through the same process. I would see the same screen. I would choose my account, go ahead and click continue again. Says it already has some access one more time. And so now it's just authorizing the account and just making sure, basically, like platforms or companies like Google do this just for your security, right? So they want to make sure that you're safe. So these credentials expire every so often just to make sure that it's actually you, the person who's supposed to be using these. And just go ahead, click verify here, and you'll see in a couple seconds we have these 2 check marks. That means that we're good to go. Moved myself up to the top for this one. Maybe this is better. So now that we're here, let's just build out like a really simple LinkedIn scenario where we can go ahead and we can use AI to generate posts for LinkedIn and actually post it to our account. So say we have a news article like this: OpenAI's board unanimously rejects Elon Musk's offer to buy the company. Basically, what we want to do is we want to create a LinkedIn post based off of the content of this article. And so the first thing that we can do here is we can come into tools and we can do set variable, and we can just say article URL. So now we always can kick this off just by coming in and pasting in a URL for the actual article. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this, and I'm just going to paste this in here, right? So now we can just pull from this article, and anytime we have a new article that we want to create a LinkedIn post from, we would just come in here and we would update this variable. If we were to run this once, basically the only output here is now the actual URL of the article, but what we want is we want the body text of the article. And so there's a really simple way to do that. We're just going to click here to add another module, and we want this HTTP module. And again, if you don't see it, just type in HTTP. Basically, all you have to do is click get a file, and this is going to download a file from any URL. So we can just go ahead here and we can just click article URL, and now we've pasted in the URL from that article. So we can just go ahead now and we can click run once, and you can see literally in just a couple seconds, if we come down here to data, this basically scrapes all of the data from that entire page. And I know this looks like a lot. It is a lot, but I promise you the body of the article is somewhere in there. One thing we can do to make it a little easier to read is we can just go ahead and click this plus and search for Markdown. We can do HTML to Markdown. What we want to do is we just want to go ahead and grab the data from the previous HTTP module. So now if we run this once, we can go ahead and click run anyway. You can see we now have a slightly nicer format to look at. Basically what's happening while we're getting so much text, if you come back here, it's actually pulling in like all these little details from all over the web page. But what's great is that we can use AI to actually just extract the body from the text, and then we can go ahead and use that to create the LinkedIn post. So I'm just going to go ahead and click plus. We can come into our OpenAI module, create a completion, and I'm going to choose the model as GPT-4o, add a message, and I'll just say sell per system, and we'll just say you are a helpful and intelligent research assistant. And one more message, just say, user, please extract the main body text from this article. Let's go ahead, pipe in the markdown there and click save. So we'll just let AI go to work for us so that we don't have to go through digging for that ourselves. So it's going to read all of the content of that website, and it's going to pull out the main article, the main body text from the article. So now you can see that we have this part. This is an intro, and basically we can just go ahead and tell ChatGPT not to give us this, but OpenAI's board of directors have responded to Elon Musk's bid, yada, yada, yada. So now we just basically have just the body of the article, which is really what we want to create our LinkedIn post from. Now I'm just going to update this so we don't get that little intro that just says like, here's the post for you. Only respond with the article body. Do not include any intros or outros. And so now what we can do is we can take the result of this and we can pipe this into another ChatGPT module to have it write a LinkedIn post for us. So just go ahead and click plus. We have OpenAI up here. We're going to create another completion. And again, I'll leave a scenario for you down in the description. It'll come bundled with the first one. I'm going to go ahead and use GPT-4o again. And remember, if we want, we can actually just go ahead and we can clone this and attach this here. And so remember, we should really rename everything. We can say get article body, like this camel case. We can say here, rename. We can say write LinkedIn post. So now we just have kind of a copy of that first one, although we're going to go ahead and we're going to change all the prompts around. And instead of a helpful and intelligent research assistant, I'm just going to say LinkedIn writing assistant. So what do we actually want this to do? So a little cheat is we can actually just go to chatgpt.com and we can actually ask this to create a prompt for us. And so basically just tell ChatGPT what you need. I said, I need to write an AI prompt for ChatGPT. The prompt should instruct ChatGPT to take the text of an article and turn it into an engaging LinkedIn post using the platform's best practices. Create a system and a user prompt. So this actually gave us a system prompt, and it is actually way better than what I put in, right? You're an expert LinkedIn content strategist specializing in creating high engagement posts. Your task is to take the text of an article and transform it into a compelling LinkedIn post using the platform best practices. Then this actually listed out some best practices for LinkedIn. And then the user prompt, here's an article, turn this into an engaging LinkedIn post that follows the best practices, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what we can do is we can just go ahead and copy and paste these back into make.com. So I'm just going to remove the system prompt and paste in what ChatGPT gave me. And this is a big block of text, but we know what it says. That's fine. The next role is the user. Here is an article and then this text. And so I'm just going to go ahead and paste that in here. And basically what we need to do is all we need to do is where it says insert full article text is we can just delete that and we can link this up to the result of the article body module that came before. Remember when ChatGPT just extracted the body of the article? And we can just go ahead and click save. And I'll save this one more time. So now if we run this once, going to go ahead, we're going to grab the HTTP from the URL, we're going to convert it to Markdown so it's a little easier to read. ChatGPT is going to grab the article body and now it's going to write an engaging LinkedIn post. So if we come down here into result, can you imagine turning down a $97.4 billion offer? That's precisely what OpenAI's board did when Elon Musk tried to buy the company. Here's the twist. OpenAI is transitioning to a for-profit company, but they believe their nonprofit roots and mission to make AI a force for good are critical, et cetera, et cetera. And CTA at the end with, what do you think? Is OpenAI making the right move to protect its mission? And again, this is just coming straight out of ChatGPT. You can adjust these prompts however you want. You can tell it about your tone of voice. You can give it examples of posts that you like. However you like to write on LinkedIn, you can include this in this module and ChatGPT will follow your guidance. So one other cool thing that we can do is we can actually use the LinkedIn post to generate an image using AI. We're just going to do this straight inside of ChatGPT using DALL-E because we already have the connection set up. And so if we come into this OpenAI again, we can come down here to generate an image and you can give this instructions, whatever you want. We can go ahead and choose Jolly 3, or you can really just pipe in the post that it wrote for LinkedIn and see what it comes up with. You can also use another ChatGPT module to take the LinkedIn post and generate an image prompt that we then use here. It's really up to you, however you want to do it. Again, you can see how stacking these things end to end become really, really powerful. I'm just going to pipe in straight the result from the previous post, which should work for us. One other thing that's really cool is that you don't actually have to click this run button and run the scenario end to end every time. If you come in here and we go into the results, we can just go ahead and we can copy these results, which is basically the same thing. And if we come in here and just do run this module only, we can just paste that in. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now OpenAI DALL-E 3 is getting to work, creating an image based off of the entire content of our LinkedIn post. I have no idea what this result's going to be, but hopefully it comes out pretty cool. So this is done. It actually revives the prompt for us, which I didn't know it was going to do. It says, visualize an abstract representation of a tech company symbolized by a strong, unyielding tree, sheltering the earth, indicating its mission towards the betterment of mankind. That's pretty prolific. So we actually can't see the entire URL here, but what's really cool is this is really actually helpful if you're ever troubleshooting. Let me just be honest with you for a second. AI and automations in all these platforms is challenging. It's really hard. You will spend a lot of time troubleshooting, and one of the most valuable skills that you can have is the ability to troubleshoot, to go out and find answers for yourself and to be able to solve problems, because I guarantee that you're going to encounter them. And again, it's one of the most valuable skills that you have, especially if you want to start bringing on clients. They're going to be looking to you for answers, and you're going to need to know where to find them. So let's hop back in here. If you're having trouble, you can come into here and we can say download the input bundles, and this will basically show you everything that got input into the module. And if we come in here, the output bundles, this is what's coming out, right? This is just a different representation of kind of these two input and output sections. This is really helpful when you're troubleshooting. Sometimes when I don't know what's going on, I will come in here, I'll copy the entire input and output bundles. I will paste them into ChatGPT and I'll say, here's the input bundle, here's the output bundle. Why isn't this working? And the AI will help solve my problems. So if I come into output bundles here, we can just go to the URL and we need to make sure we grab the entire URL. So I'm just going to grab this and copy and paste this into a new tab. And this is the image that DALL-E generated. And so honestly, not my favorite image for this, but I just wanted to show you what's possible. Again, we could do a better job prompting the AI just to get something that feels like a little bit more like it matches with the theme of the article. But really, again, it's really all up to you. So the last thing we need to do here is we just need to publish this to LinkedIn. So I'm just going to go ahead and rename this, and I'm just going to say generate image. And basically, I know we're going to need to download this image so that we can upload it again to LinkedIn. So again, remember, use our friend, the HTTP module, get a file, grab the URL, come down here into data and go into URL. Now we're just going to click save. Now all we need to do is connect our LinkedIn account. So if we come down here and we search for LinkedIn, we can say create a user image post. There are actually two modules here. There's a user text post and a user image post. And so if your post only has text, use this first one. If you're including an image, use the second one. And if you're using a video, there's one here for that too. So I'm going to create a user image post. I'm connected to LinkedIn. Again, remember, add a connection here. Choose your connected type, LinkedIn or OpenID Connect. I honestly can't remember which one I used, but you should be able to connect your account pretty simply here. And I just want to make sure that we grab a file. It's going to be the second one here. The title and alt text don't actually matter. This is just for you. This won't show up on LinkedIn, but the content here is we just want to grab the result from the LinkedIn post bot, and we can change the visibility to whoever you want to be able to view this, distribution, main feed, et cetera, and go ahead and click save. And that's really all you need here. So I'm going to click save here, and I'm going to run this through one more time. Again, we're grabbing the article, we're getting it from the HTTP, we're converting it to Markdown, we're just extracting the body of the article so that we know specifically what we're writing our LinkedIn post about. It's going to come over here, it's going to take that article body, generate a LinkedIn post following the best practices. We're now using DALL-E 3 to generate an image. We're going to use one more HTTP module to actually download that image in a format that we can then upload to LinkedIn on the other side. So here we go. It ran through the scenario. We have no errors. So if I come into LinkedIn over here, if I just come into my profile and scroll down to my activity, you can see this post right here, generate a new image for us. We can click into this, go ahead and click more. We have the entire content of our LinkedIn article that was all written by AI, and we have this news that was great. I actually like this image a lot better than the first one, so I'm really happy with this. I don't want to keep this on my LinkedIn, so I'm going to delete it, but you can see that the system works. I hope this video was helpful in getting you started and up and running with Make.com. If you thought it was, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and check out this video up here or maybe up here if you want to learn more about automating your LinkedIn. I'll see you over there.